Oregon State's got Purdue at the Big House this weekend.
Bring on the Boilermakers.
Chainsaws are going to be running down in Reser Stadium. Vegas line says sub 6 points. Now, I want to be fully transparent here. I don't know where Beaver fan is for this game. It was a weird game to think about because Purdue is coming with no buzz. They just got buzz sawed by Notre Dame.
It's 42-0 at the half.
66-7.
Yeah.
They also had a bye week 2, and in week 1, if you haven't seen it, they beat Indiana State, the Fighting Larry Birds, 49-0. So I have a 2-game sample size where they lost by 58 and they won by 49. I have no read on Purdue. I think people claiming they do are lying. There is no sample size of this Purdue team that is clear and definitive.
No.
But I did mentally Monday come in thinking, oh, we're going to roll Purdue. This is going to be great. This is our rebound week. And it may end up being that. But Vegas is not saying that that's the case. This is sub 5 now.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be the indicator. But this is a massive weekend for my Beavs. What are the expectations for Oregon State with Purdue following a Civil War beatdown?
Yeah, I look at this game very similarly to the game that Washington State had with Texas Tech. I love Oregon State's chances this weekend. I think you're at home. You're coming off a tough emotional loss in a rivalry game. Josh Pate, our good friend who joins us every Wednesday, he likes to use the terminology wounded animal mode. And I think there's a difference between losing a tough rivalry game at home and just getting embarrassed on national TV the way that Purdue did, that I think you're going to get a really good effort from Oregon State. I went back and actually watched this game yesterday. It's funny, we talk about what are we watching during the week when there's not football on. I go back and watch football games because I just miss them during the weekend, and I'm curious what they look like.
I watch more football stuff.
Exactly. That's what I'm watching, right? So this game was on, I believe, at the same time as the Apple Cup and the Civil War. So I didn't see a second of it on Saturday. I'm just laughing as the scroll goes across the bottom of the screen. And it made me even more reaffirmed in my stance that I like Oregon State this weekend. Now, the one caveat I'll add to that, I don't know what to make of Purdue's offense against Oregon State's defense. If you're a Beaver fan after last week, you're not feeling great. They didn't get a stop the entire game. Now, Oregon's got a lot of weapons, and their offensive line was set a little bit. Notre Dame has an elite defense. We can make fun of them for losing to Northern Illinois, but you have to acknowledge their secondary is elite. Their defense is good.
No, they're a good team.
They lost that game because their offense just was lost in the wilderness for whatever reason, and they got too high on their own supply. So I don't know I can't get an accurate read on Purdue's offense and what they're bringing to the table. What would have me salivating if I'm an Oregon State fan is I think we can all acknowledge that Notre Dame does not have the best offense in the country. Mm-hmm. They were already down a starting offensive lineman. They lost another starting offensive lineman, I want to say, on the second or third drive of that game.
Yeah, that
and
was
he's out for the rest of the year. So they're now down 2 starting offensive linemen. You know how many yards they ran for against Purdue?
362.
360.
And you knew they were going to run.
Every play. They didn't even try and throw it. They knew that they were going to run it, and they ran it down their throat. They had 2 different guys that average over 9 yards a carry. And so, and what killed them in going back and watching the game was the zone read stuff. Riley Leonard killed him in the zone read, and then when he was handing it off, it would suck a linebacker or a safety in to track him because you had to keep an eye and be honest. And so I look at that and I see what's Oregon State's strength offensively?
Running the football.
You got 2 good backs, you got a quarterback that can move, a good offensive line. That's where I like this matchup a ton for Oregon State.
Swag, what are your expectations when you think of Purdue, Oregon State?
I think Oregon State should control the game. For Oregon State is, can they avoid the mistakes, penalties, missed opportunities when they get down into the red zone? Can they trust their field goal kicker? Those sorts of things. They should be able to control the line of scrimmage offensively, control time of possession, limit Purdue's possessions. And so then the question is, can they finish with touchdowns? If they do, then I think they win by double digits. If they can't, it's going to be a white knuckle ride.
When you think of the score in your mind, give me 2 scores. Both of you give me a score that you see in your head.
35-31.
31-21.
31-21. 35-31. So you think this is a very close game?
Yeah, I'm not saying blowout, but I like your chances here. But largely that to me is just I don't know what to make of Purdue's offense.
Well, I think that's the tough part is, and Notre Dame's defense is better than Oregon State's, certainly.
Yes.
I don't know what to make of the offense either because I only have these 2 games, and it's like Indiana State is nothing, and Notre Dame is significantly better than them.
Yeah.
The over-under is 50.5, by the way.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
So maybe more points in this one than you think going into it. I think this is such a massive game for Trent Bray and Oregon State. my Beavers took a beating last weekend, and they also had some other things that's a little concerning. Attendance, the amount of Duck fans that infiltrated Oregon State. I think the Pac-12 stuff, I know social media would have you believe that it was the most universally celebrated thing. I think the reality is it bummed people out. It was like, cool, we're this now, like permanently. And permanent can be 4 or 5 years, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes, at least for the short term, this is your
The
future.
last thing they can afford is coming back after that
And
game
laying an
last
egg.
weekend and laying an egg and losing to Purdue, because Purdue is not a great team
It's a winnable game against a power conference
against
team.
a power conference
In your building.
in your building, and their weakness is your strength,
Yep.
and like this lines up for you to rebound. And if they don't and they lay an egg, it's gonna I dare I say panic. I don't want to go there, but it's gonna be a real uncomfortable feeling, I think, for Oregon State fan of, oh my God, Purdue was a win to us in our minds.
Yes, it was.
Because they just got ousted by Notre Dame, and they're also not supposed to be very good this year. But now you lost to Oregon in a beatdown, and then you followed it up by losing to Purdue. UNLV looks good. Boise State looks good. Washington State looks good. Is 7-5. Cal is 7-5 in your future. Is 6-6. Like, you start to go to some troubling areas in year one for Trent Bray, and it doesn't have to be an indictment on Bray. I think what I'm just highlighting is this is a massively important game for Oregon State to rebound in.
Yeah, I'll go back to what I said on Monday, and I know we disagreed slightly on this. I actually liked a lot of what I saw from Oregon State, considering the talent gap, and especially their offensive game plan in the first half, to limit Oregon to 3 possessions, to shrink the game down. They don't have a down-the-field passing attack, but we knew that coming in. They're not going to have one this year. So a lot of it has to be RPOs, quick slants, just get the ball out. They did a great job of managing third down in terms of getting into a 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, in which you can lean on your run game or have a quarterback just have to scramble for a couple yards and pick one up. If you can follow that game plan, shrink the game, control the clock, I don't know what to make of Purdue's offense, but I know that they don't have the firepower that Oregon has. Hudson Card is a guy who's played a lot of college football. He's their starter. He was kind of a Texas high school legend. I believe Will Stein coached him in high school. He started a couple of games for Texas right out of high school, and then has kind of bounced around and been a journeyman, one of those kind of college quarterbacks. So he's seen a lot of different things, but I don't have any reason to believe that this Oregon State offense can't move the ball against them. And if you could do that, ease some of the pressure on your defense this weekend, I think you got a great chance of winning this game.